Unknown? 5. 4. I've borrowed from institutions. How many times in my life? 1. Banks, that kind of stuff. I've borrowed from personal people. How many times in my life? Lots. 1.
What do you consider borrowing? What
It tells you.
Just like yesterday, I had spent the money I had on me, I don't know, $100 I had spent, and I was going somewhere else, and I had met with my friends, and I had to give me $100. We don't consider that borrowing, because I went out to eat, so I needed that money.
So you didn't pay it back?
I mean, no, because it was just yesterday. So,
no.
So are you saying considering $100 that box?
Yeah, I consider any time you get money from someone else, and the understanding is that that money is to be paid back. How many times have you done that in your life?
A lot.
I don't know.
A lot? How many?
Say probably once every 2 months.
What else?
At
least 10 times?
Oh, well over 10 times. If you're saying that's considered borrowing, I mean, we just exchange money just all the time. We're out, and if I'm at a store and I want to buy shoes and different things, and
is the understanding that you're going to be paying that back? Is the understanding that you're going to be paying the money back?
Like the next day, or just whenever we see each other.
Okay.
So that's considered borrowing.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Borrowing money
does not feel good.
Does not feel good? Go ahead. It's embarrassing. Borrowing money
means liability.
Means a liability. Borrowing money
you become a slave to that person.
Means you can become a slave to that person. Borrowing money
It's not good among friends and family.
Is not good among friends and family. Borrowing money
It's uncomfortable.
is uncomfortable. Borrowing money
Try not to make this a habit.
is last resort. It's part of business. It's the last resort. Is
Try
what?
not to make it a habit in my life.
Okay. Borrowing money. I try not to make it a habit in my money. In my life. Okay. Now, what is this telling us about how we feel about borrowing money? The act of borrowing money is not good. We don't, based on the things you all are saying for the most part, except for it's a part of doing business, and based on you, just as cool as whatever we do all the time.
That's not right to borrow money.
Okay, now where do we get the idea that borrowing money is not right?
Biblical.
It's okay with me.
Okay, why is it okay with you?
Because it's just part of life. That's, cash flow.
Okay.
You need money, you need cash, or you need to borrow it.
All right, borrowing money. What else? Where do we get this idea that it's negative?
Biblical.
Biblical. Okay, what Bible are you reading from? Tell me about it.
The borrower becomes a slave to the lender.
That's right.
Okay. All right. What else? Where do we get this idea that borrowing money creates negative energy?
Seeing people borrow money and either not be able to pay it back like a loan. And it becomes an
issue. Right. What else?
I don't know if you're putting the other person in a bind themselves.
You don't know if you're putting the other person into a bind themselves? What else?
Other people may talk. That person that loans you the money, chances are they're going to tell someone else. And,
right.
Some people don't want feelings hurt and things like that.
Okay. What else?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I just said it can be uncomfortable, basically.
Why?
In line with what she's saying, you go to someone in confidence because you need money for X, whatever that item is or whatever it is you need. And it's just like you don't want everybody getting on the phone.
Why?
Because you care what people think, and that's the bottom line.
That's right. You know me, right? I'm like, we can go all over the steps and stuff, but at the end of the day, because you care what people think. Right? You don't want people talking about you. You care about the things they're going to be saying. Okay? So we want to avoid that experience. So now borrowing, which is not inherently a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to borrow money.
It's bad when you can't pay it back. That's
now, why is it bad when you can't pay it back?
Because it's the same thing. It's the chatter that occurs, and the phone calls, the bill collectors, all of that harassment and anxiety that you feel around that.
So you don't want to have that experience.
Right.
You don't want the experience of people calling you and saying things about you and your credit being tarnished, and whether that's your personal credit with people or your real credit that's on file. We don't want that experience. What were you going to say?
And borrowing too, that's like a promise, you know, because I would rather ask, well, would you have a few extra bucks you could give me? Because once I accept that as I borrow, or that, you know, I borrow that money, now it's my word that's at stake here. You know, a promise.
And is your word not good?
Mine, yeah, mine.
So why is there anxiety? If your word is good, you're borrowing from someone who shares the same kind of energy that you do about borrowing, and what's going to happen?
Well, a lot of times too, that person you're borrowing from, you don't know what's going through their head.
So why are you borrowing money from them?
Why?
Why are you borrowing money from them?
Well, thank God I don't have to right now, but in the past when I had to, you know, I was willing to take whatever came with it, along with it, because I knew what I needed.
Okay.
You know, with single parent, 2 little kids, you know.
Right. You did. You were doing whatever.
I did what I had to do.
So, am I hearing that the whole notion of borrowing and making it a negative thing, if you were borrowing from someone who has the same, and we have to get your sensibility right about money, first of all, but if you're borrowing from someone who is not going to do all the negative things that you guys have said, then borrowing becomes a very pleasant experience.
It could be.
Right? It could be a very pleasant experience.
I think that person
So the issue is not about what they're going to say, but the issue is borrowing from the right person.
Right.
Okay? Which is a choice that you make. Don't borrow from people who are going to be negative and talking about it and blah, 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 blah. And if those are the only, and the challenge is, if those are the only people in your life, then you need to get some new friends.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay? Let me repeat that. You need to get some new friends. If the people that you're doing business with, personal business with, are people who are going to carry negative energy because you need to borrow $500. You need new friends. I make loans all the time to people. There's no negativity whatsoever. We sign agreements. It's going to happen. You know, I have friends who are in real estate who literally, I mean, I have a real estate development company, and that company is, we're having to change a whole bunch of stuff, right? Sometimes I make personal loans to people because the market is just atrocious. And those people, I'll give you an example, those people avoided me for like months. And then I called one of the people and I said, I said, let's not do this. I said, we've been friends for a long time. We've done business for even longer. And I said, and I called them out. The same thing I'm saying to you. I said, you are avoiding me because you think the money thing is icky. And it's not. What's going to get icky is you avoiding me when we've been friends for so long. So I said, you don't have to do that. I understand the market is down. You know, we'll extend the blah, 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 blah. And within days, my relationship with that person just started back again. But they were doing all the stuff y'all are talking about. They avoided me. They wouldn't call. They wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I talk to this person every day. Why is he calling me? He feels like, right, he feels bad. All the stuff you said. So that didn't have anything to do with me. But I needed to say to him, let's not do the icky borrow money thing that people typically do. That's not even who we are. But he's been so conditioned to do that when you can't pay people back, you got to blah, 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 blah. It was just automatic for him. And I could have just let that go on, right? Right. Hurt our relationship. I could have just well, you're late with your thing, and blah, blah, blah. I could have done that whole thing. Do business with the kind of people you want to do business with. That's the takeaway here. Do business with the kind of people who understand that borrowing in and of itself is a healthy exchange that people need to do. Y'all are doing business with the wrong people. You're in business with the wrong people, yes.
So some of that, I think, we'll go back to status. Meaning, if your status, like I can call people and just say, hey, I need $500. And they're just going to give it to me. Just because they know tomorrow, whenever, the next day, if they're not in a rush, I'll give it back to them.
Okay.
If I need it. That just comes from status. They're not going to get on the phone and call around and say, hey, that
comes from your existing relationship.
Yeah.
Meaning that they know you're good for it.
Yeah.
If they didn't think you were good for it, I don't think they would do it. Would they?
Well, yeah, I guess not.
Right. If they didn't think you were good for it, and that's based on a prior relationship that you have with them, then they probably wouldn't do that.
But you wouldn't borrow from a stranger, right? So everyone you're borrowing from.
Yeah, but the people you guys are borrowing from based on the experiences that you're sharing are not people you need to be borrowing from. is the whole issue.
Right, I learned that early, and I considered them to be toxic, and no, they're not.
Yeah,
toxic
I
anymore.
mean, but as you pointed out, and Patty, we're going to break, right? As you pointed out, because you needed it so much, and that's the situation that most people get in, when you needed it so much that you would take the fallout of whatever getting that $500 was about. And that's the experience that we want to work on avoiding. Okay? Surround yourself with better people. Your borrowing experiences become much more positive, right? You feel better, they feel, it's a different kind of exchange. So the lesson here is not to borrow, because borrowing is good. You wouldn't have your house, I wouldn't have my house, I wouldn't have my car, I wouldn't have any of that if I didn't do some kind of borrowing. Wouldn't have started my first business if someone hadn't invested in my. So that exchange in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's the quality of those relationships that you need to be improving. It's all going to go back to the relationships that you have. And are you all willing to improve the quality of the relationships that you have? That's the issue. You got to fire some people to make room for the right people to do business with. The biggest challenge you'll have walking out of here today is not whether you are smart enough to do the things I'm going to share with you. It's whether you're willing, you have the courage and the guts to fire the right people in your life and get the other people in your life. That's it.
Amen.
That's it. It's that simple.
It's not shallow.
Yes.
Sometimes the borrower issue lies with the individual that's trying to do the borrowing.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do inventory on ourselves, and if we lack integrity,
that's right.
In our relationships with people, if they've had bad experiences with us, then
that's right.
you're going to get that resistance.
Yep. Sometimes you're the bad neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to take that under consideration.
Well, that's a place to start with everything with me. It's like, what is your side of the street? How are you doing? Do you have integrity with money? Which is why we did the whole, how many of you are lying about money? How many of you are not being very, high on the integrity scale with money? Because it all starts with you. That's a great way. It starts with you from the beginning. But you can't attract what you are not. You're not going to do business with multi-million and billionaires if you don't do business a certain way. It's just never going to happen. You can't expect people to be honest and to do what they say they're going to do if on your side of the street that stuff is not in place. So I really believe that people in our lives are a reflection of who we are. They're just holding a mirror up for who we are. And if you want to know what you're doing in your life and what's really going on inside your life, look at the people in your life. It's not by accident that you have these people in your life.
Gravitation.
Yeah. That's just the way it is. Okay? Not people would have us believe that opposites attract, likes attract. You have the people in your life because that is what you are magnetizing. Okay? Let's take a quick break. Pat, what time is it?
It's 11:35.
11:35. We'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 11:40. We'll wrap up. We'll go to lunch, and then we have a guest speaker right after lunch. Or the most expensive gift I've ever received.
Car.
Car?
My education.
Your education? Rent? All right, the most money I've ever loaned someone. 10,000? Did you get it back? Did you get it back on the terms that you described?
Yeah, but to even take that a step further, if you're making a loan to someone, if aside from a standard structured business entity, you have to make that loan without ever having the expectation of getting it paid back. Because if you're making it as though, well, I'm going to invest and I'm going to get a little bit of interest off, and it's a good deal, you're going to get burned every time.
Every loan, here's something for you to think about. Every loan you make, every single one of them, even though paperwork exchanges, you do all that great stuff, every loan you make, you should approach it as if there's a possibility, and a strong possibility that you will never see that money again. Ever. Even if you know that person's good for it. It doesn't matter. The loans I made, in October for my friends who are in real estate, would have never thought in a million years that I would not have not gotten that money back. I literally wouldn't even thought. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, this, January comes, it'll be. And not one of them has happened. So you have to be prepared for every loan you make not to happen. Never see the money. And if you can't live with that, don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, literally, people say that all the time, but really don't do it. If you can't live with literally just giving somebody $1,000, $500, whatever the amount is for you, don't do it.
Would that go back to the rule for what I just said earlier?
What's that?
Take people off?
Yeah, you can pay people off. I mean, for you, you don't care whether you get it back or not.
Right, because here's my thing. Bottom line with me is, I'm not going to give it to you or invest in you with the intention because I'm having that as an extra money to lend to you anyway. I'm not telling you that, but I'm giving
But
it.
on your end, you're saying, I'm giving it.
Right, because I'm writing it off anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to let you borrow something that I can't afford to let you
give
borrow
you.
either.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to let your problem become my
yours.
problem no way. You know, if I can't go pay my bills because I'm trying to help a friend, you know, I got to be true with myself. I don't have it.
Right.
I might have had it 6 months or a year ago.
Right.
Today I don't have it. Most times people have a problem, they'll lend it, but they don't really have it. But they don't want people to think
that they don't have it.
Exactly.
So they give it even though they shouldn't be giving it.
Right.
Okay? What I want to make you more aware of is what you're doing with your money. I mean, you bring up a great point. It's like, you know you don't have this money to give, but you have to literally have the integrity within yourself to say, I really don't have this money to give. And I'm going to have to let go of what this person's going to be thinking when I say I don't have this money to give. I don't have this money to give. Because think of the currency and the energy that you create within yourself when you give what you don't have to give. And not that fake, some people, I know I'm going to get it back, I know I'm going to get blessed, blah, 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 because most people don't really believe that. Okay? They expect that money back. They want it back. It's about integrity. It's about your own personal money integrity. And you have to be willing to say no to somebody else so that you can say yes to what's right for you. And here's the thing. I mean, if you don't give it to them, they'll get it from somebody else. They can. But what we have a difficult time with is dealing with our saying no, dealing with, oh, they really need it. What if they go out and you just have to deal with that?